The dust storms came every 3 days like clockwork. Knew this because she had been counting. 21 days since the attack. 21 days since everyone else died. 21 days of hiding in the ruins of Colony Base 7, waiting for a rescue that never came. She pressed her face against the cracked window of the storage building where she had made her shelter. Outside, the red dust swirled through the air like angry ghosts. The wind howled between the broken structures, making sounds that sometimes resembled voices. Had learned not to listen too carefully to those sounds. They made her remember things she wanted to forget. The 11-year-old girl turned away from the window and checked her supplies again. 3 water pouches left. Maybe 4 days of food bars if she rationed carefully. The medical kit was almost empty. She had used most of it in the first week, trying to help the others before they died. Her hands still shook when she thought about those terrible hours. Picked up her father's data tablet from the makeshift bed. The screen flickered to life, showing the same information she had read 100 times. Survival protocols, emergency procedures, maps of the colony and surrounding areas. Her father had been the chief science officer. He had taught to always be prepared, to always think ahead. She wished he had prepared her for being completely alone. The tablet showed a map of the wasteland beyond the colony. Her father had called it the Scorched Barrens. The land stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction, filled with sharp crystal formations and poisonous pools. Nothing grew there. Nothing lived there, or so everyone had thought. Looked at her dwindling supplies again and made a decision. She could not wait any longer. The distress beacon was damaged beyond her ability to repair. No rescue ships would come. If she stayed here, she would die slowly from starvation or thirst. She needed to find water, food, anything that could keep her alive. She pulled on her father's oversized jacket and secured the breathing mask around her neck. The air outside was breathable, but the dust storms could choke anyone who was not careful. Stuffed the remaining supplies into a small pack, along with the tablet. She took one last look around the storage room that had been her home for 3 weeks. The colony ruins were silent except for the wind, moved carefully between the collapsed buildings, remembering where her friends had lived. The Martinez family had been in Building 12, the Lee family in Building 8, everyone gone now. The attack had come at night, fast and brutal, had only survived because she had been in the storage area searching for her lost toy. She found the colony medical center half buried in rubble, spent 20 minutes digging through the debris, searching for supplies. She found 2 more water pouches and some antiseptic spray, not much but better than nothing. As she worked, she noticed something strange. Large marks the ground near the medical center. They looked like claw marks but enormous. Each one was longer than was tall. The edges of the marks were smooth, not jagged like damage from the attack. These were fresh, made recently. Something big had been here. Followed the marks with growing curiosity. They led toward the eastern edge of the colony, away from the main destruction. The creature had been walking, not running. The spacing between the marks suggested something that moved with purpose and control. Whatever made these marks was not the same thing that had destroyed the colony. The trail led to the edge of the settlement, where the prefab buildings gave way to the natural wasteland. Stopped and stared. The crystal formations rose before her like a frozen forest, glittering in the dim light of the planet's sun. Between the crystals, she could see the mouth of a canyon system. The claw marks led directly toward it. A sound drifted from the canyon. It was deep and resonating like nothing had ever heard. It reminded her of the old videos her father had shown her of whales singing in Earth's oceans. But this was different. This sound carried power and age. It made the ground vibrate beneath her feet. Clutched the data tablet and checked the readings. The tablet showed elevated energy signatures coming from the canyon. Her father had noted these readings weeks before the attack but had never investigated them. He had been too busy with colony work. The smart thing would be to turn back. The safe thing would be to return to her shelter and make her supplies last as long as possible, but was tired of being smart and safe. Smart and safe had left her alone in a dead colony with no hope of rescue. She thought about her father, always pushing forward into the unknown. She thought about her mother, who had taught her that fear was normal but should not control her choices. Took a deep breath and started walking toward the canyon. The crystal formations grew taller as she moved deeper into the wasteland. Some reached 30 feet into the air, their surfaces reflecting distorted images. Saw her own reflection 100 times in different colors. She looked small and fragile among the towering crystals. The canyon entrance loomed ahead. The walls were dark stone, different from the crystals. Strange symbols were carved into the rock around the entrance, worn by time but still visible. Touched one of the symbols. The stone was warm under her fingers, warmer than it should be. Another sound echoed from deep within the canyon. Closer this time. Felt her heart hammering in her chest. Every survival instinct screamed at her to run back to the colony. But she thought about dying slowly in that storage room, alone and forgotten. She stepped into the canyon. The temperature rose immediately. The walls blocked the wind and the air felt heavy and still. Walked forward carefully, watching for loose rocks or hidden dangers. The tablet's screen showed the energy readings growing stronger with each step. The canyon curved to the left, then split into 3 passages. Stood at the intersection, uncertain which way to go. Then she noticed something on the ground. Scales. Black scales the size of her hand, scattered across the stone like fallen leaves. She picked one up. It was smooth and cool despite the warm air. The scale caught the light and shimmered with deep purple and blue colors. Had never seen anything like it in all the colony's research files. A new sound reached her ears. Breathing. Slow, steady, massive breathing that echoed off the canyon walls. Something huge was ahead and it was alive. Gripped her father's tablet. She had come too far to turn back now. Whatever waited in these canyons, whatever had made those claw marks and dropped these scales, it was the only thing on this planet that might be more interesting than slow death. She chose the middle passage and walked deeper into the darkness. The breathing grew louder with each step. Her own breathing matched the rhythm unconsciously. She rounded a final curve and saw light ahead, not sunlight. This light was golden and flickering like fire. The passage opened into an enormous cavern. Stepped through and stopped, her mouth falling open in wonder and fear. She had found what lived in the wasteland, and it was looking directly at her with eyes like burning amber. The creature before was impossible. Her mind struggled to process what her eyes were seeing. It stretched across the cavern floor like a living mountain, 30 meters from nose to tail. Black scales covered its body, each one the size of a dinner plate. They caught the firelight and shimmered with hidden colors, purples and blues dancing across the surface. The creature's head alone was bigger than the storage building had been living in. 2 massive horns curved back from its skull, and a ridge of spines ran down its neck and back. 4 legs ended in claws that could tear through steel. Wings, folded against its sides, looked powerful enough to create hurricanes. But what held frozen in place were the eyes. They were golden amber, glowing with their own inner light. Those eyes studied her with an intelligence that was immediately obvious. This was not some mindless beast. This was something ancient and aware. The creature shifted slightly and saw the wound. A massive gash ran across the creature's left side, starting behind the front leg and extending halfway down its body. The scales there were torn and blackened. Dark blood stained the stone beneath it. The wound looked days old but was clearly causing pain. Should have run. Every reasonable part of her brain screamed that she should turn and flee as fast as her legs could carry her. But she had come here looking for something, anything, that might help her survive. And this creature, despite its terrifying size and obvious power, was hurt. It needed help. She took a careful step forward. The creature's eyes tracked the movement, but it did not move. Took another step, then another. Her hand reached into her pack and pulled out the small medical kit she had salvaged earlier. It was laughably inadequate for a wound that size, but it was all she had. "I want to help," said. Her voice sounded small in the vast cavern. "I can see you're hurt." The creature made a sound, a low rumble that vibrated through bones. Then something happened that made her gasp. Images flooded into her mind, not words, but pictures and feelings. She saw the creature flying through the sky. She saw other creatures attacking it, smaller beings with ships and weapons. She felt the pain of the wound, sharp and burning. Stumbled and pressed her hand against her head. "What are you doing to me?" More images came, gentler this time. She saw the creature had been guarding something in these canyons for a very long time. She felt its surprise at seeing a human child, alone and unafraid. She sensed curiosity mixed with caution. "You're talking to me," whispered. "In my head, you're actually talking to me." The creature lowered its massive head closer to. She could feel the heat radiating from its body. Up close, she could see that the scales were not purely black but contained swirls of deep purple and blue, like an oil slick catching light. The golden eyes studied her with an intensity that made her feel exposed, as if the creature could see every thought in her mind. held up the medical kit. "This is really small for someone your size, but I have antiseptic. It might help prevent infection." Another wave of images. The creature showed her its name, or rather, a concept that translated roughly to guardian or sentinel. Tried to wrap her mind around the idea and settled on calling it sentinel in her thoughts. Sentinel shifted its body, turning slightly to expose the wound more fully. The movement was clearly painful, but it was also a gesture of trust. The creature was allowing her to approach. Walked closer, her pack and the medical kit clutched in her hands. The wound was even worse up close. Whatever had caused this had cut deep into the flesh beneath the scales. The edges looked burned, as if hit by some kind of energy weapon. She opened the antiseptic spray and looked up at Sentinel. This might sting. The creature's eyes seemed to express amusement. Took that as permission. She sprayed the antiseptic along the wound, using the entire bottle. It was like trying to clean an ocean with a teaspoon, but Sentinel remained still and patient. As worked, more images came to her. She saw the creatures that had attacked Sentinel. They were called the reptilian beings that traveled in ships and hunted for ancient technology. They had come to this planet searching for something Sentinel was guarding. When Sentinel refused to move, they had attacked. "Did they destroy my colony?" asked, understanding dawning on her. Sentinel confirmed this with a pulse of images. They had attacked the human settlement as a warning, trying to force Sentinel to abandon its post. They thought killing the humans would make Sentinel leave. They did not understand that Sentinel had been guarding this place for centuries and would not abandon its duty for anything. Felt anger burn in her chest. "They killed everyone, my parents, my friends, everyone, just to get to you." Sentinel showed her more. They would return. They always returned. They were searching for an ancient beacon hidden deep in the canyon system, a device from a civilization long dead. If they obtained it, they would gain power that could threaten many worlds. "So you're protecting this beacon thing?" asked. She finished with the antiseptic and stepped back. The wound was cleaner now, but it would take time to heal. Sentinel made a sound that might have been agreement. Then the creature did something unexpected. It offered a bargain, communicated through more images. Sentinel would protect her, keep her safe from the dangers of the Wasteland. In exchange, would help Sentinel prepare for when they returned. Thought about her options. She could return to the colony ruins and die slowly of starvation. She could try to cross the Wasteland alone and almost certainly die quickly from the environment. Or she could accept this offer and stay with a massive, intelligent creature that could apparently talk to her mind. "You'll keep me safe?" asked. "Really safe?" Sentinel lowered its head until it was level with. Those amber eyes looked directly into hers. The creature showed her images of itself fighting, breathing fire that melted metal, protecting what it valued with absolute commitment. Then it showed her something else. It showed her how it saw her now, a small, brave creature that had walked into darkness to help an injured stranger. Sentinel respected courage. Made her decision. She reached out and placed her small hand on Sentinel's snout. The scales were warm and smooth under her palm. "Okay, we help each other. Deal." Sentinel made a deep, rumbling sound that somehow knew was approval. The creature carefully wrapped one massive wing around her, creating a shelter of black scales and warmth. For the first time in 21 days, felt safe. Over the next hour, Sentinel showed the rest of the cavern system. There were multiple chambers, some with fresh water flowing from underground springs. Others contained strange equipment left by the ancient civilization that built the beacon. Sentinel had been consuming local wildlife that lived deep in the canyon, creatures had never seen in the colony's research. Found a smaller chamber near Sentinel's main resting place and began moving her few possessions there. The temperature was comfortable, and the sound of running water was soothing. It was better than the cold storage room she had been living in. As she worked, Sentinel watched with those intelligent eyes. The creature sent her occasional images, teaching her about the planet's true nature. The wasteland was dangerous, but it followed patterns. The storms came every 3 days. Certain areas had toxic gas vents. Other areas were safe if you knew where to look. Pulled out her father's tablet and showed it to Sentinel. The creature was fascinated by human technology. It had not seen humans in this part of space before. Through images, Sentinel explained that its kind had known humans once long ago. There had been an alliance between dragons and an ancient human-like race. But that was thousands of years past, and the memory was faint. "Your kind are dragons?" asked, excited. "Like in the old Earth stories?" Sentinel showed confusion at the term, but accepted it when shared her memories of dragon legends. The creature seemed pleased by the comparison. As the planet's sun set outside, sat in her new home with her stomach full of water and the emergency rations she had been saving. Sentinel rested nearby, the massive form blocking the entrance to the chamber. Nothing could reach without going through the dragon first. For the first time since the attack, felt hope. She was not alone anymore. She had found an ally, a protector, and maybe even a friend. The would return, Sentinel had made that clear, but when they did, they would not find a helpless human child. Woke to the sound of Sentinel breathing. The steady rhythm had become comforting over the past week. She stretched in her sleeping area and looked around the chamber that had become her home. The walls were smooth stone, worn by centuries of water flow. Bioluminescent fungi grew in patches, providing soft blue light even when the sun was not up. She climbed out of her bedroll and walked to the main cavern. Sentinel was awake, golden eyes watching the canyon entrance. The dragon had barely slept since arrived, always alert for threats. The wound on its side was healing slowly, had been cleaning it daily with water from the underground spring. "Good morning," said. She had gotten used to speaking out loud, even though Sentinel communicated through images. The dragon turned its massive head toward her and sent a warm greeting through their mental connection. Smiled. A week ago, the telepathic communication had been strange and frightening. Now it felt natural. Sentinel showed her an image of the day ahead. They would explore deeper into the canyon system. There were chambers had not seen yet, and Sentinel wanted to teach her about the ancient technology stored there. Grabbed her father's tablet and followed Sentinel through a passage she had not entered before. The tunnel sloped downward, lit by more of the glowing fungi. The air grew warmer as they descended. They entered a large chamber filled with strange devices. Metal panels covered the walls, marked with symbols similar to those had seen at the canyon entrance. In the center of the room stood a cylindrical structure, 10 feet tall and humming with quiet energy. "Is that the beacon?" asked. Sentinel sent confirmation. This was what the dragon had been guarding for centuries. The beacon was built by a civilization that existed long before humans left Earth. It was designed to send signals across vast distances, calling for help or announcing important discoveries. Approached the beacon carefully. Her father's tablet detected strong energy readings. She touched one of the control panels and the screen lit up with alien text. Could not read it, but Sentinel sent her impressions of what the symbols meant. The beacon was dormant but functional. If activated, it would send a signal that could be detected across multiple star systems. Ships would come to investigate. Some might be friendly, others might not. "The want this," said. "That's why they attacked you." Sentinel showed her images of the reptilian creatures with advanced technology but no honor. They scavenged ancient sites, stealing technology they did not understand. If they claimed the beacon, they would use it to lure other species into traps. Studied the control panel, trying to understand how it worked. Her father had taught her basic engineering principles. Her mother had been always excited about alien life. Wished they were here to see this. They would have loved meeting Sentinel. The memory hurt, sat down on the floor, fighting back tears. It had been almost a month since the attack. The pain was still sharp. Sentinel moved closer and gently wrapped a wing around her. The dragon sent comforting images, memories of its own losses. Sentinel had once had companions, other dragons who guarded different worlds. Over the centuries, they had died one by one. Sentinel understood loneliness and grief. Leaned against the warm scales. "Do you think they suffered, my parents?" Sentinel sent honest images. The attack had been fast. Most of the colonists died quickly without prolonged pain. It was small comfort, but it was something. They sat together in the quiet chamber for a long time, then wiped her eyes and stood up. Her parents had taught her to be strong, to keep moving forward. She would not waste the chance Sentinel had given her. Over the following days, threw herself into learning. Sentinel taught her to read the signs of the Wasteland. She learned which crystal formations indicated water sources underground. She learned the patterns of the toxic gas vents and how to avoid them. She learned that certain times of day were safer for moving through the open areas. In return, taught Sentinel about human technology. The dragon was fascinated by the tablet and the information it contained. Showed Sentinel videos of Earth, images of cities and oceans and forests. The dragon had never seen a world so full of life. began repairing some of the ancient equipment in the beacon chamber. Using tools she salvaged from the colony ruins, she replaced damaged power connections and cleaned corrosion from contact points. The work was slow, but satisfying. Her father had taught her well. One afternoon managed to activate one of the control panels. Text scrolled across the screen in the alien language. Sentinel translated through their connection. The panel showed a star map, marking locations where similar beacons existed. Most of the markers were gray, indicating the beacons were inactive or destroyed. Only 3 still showed green, including this one. "There are others like you," said excited. "Other Guardians watching over beacons." Sentinel confirmed this but sent images of great distance. The other Guardians were star systems away. They had not communicated in centuries. Sentinel did not even know if they still lived. Thought about this as she worked. Sentinel had been alone for so long, faithful to a duty given by a civilization that no longer existed. The dragon's loyalty was incredible and sad. That evening named the dragon. "Sentinel is what you do," she explained. "But you should have a name that's yours. I'm going to call you Ash, like the ash left after fire, because you're what remains when everything else is gone." The dragon considered this. Then Ash sent approval and warmth. The creature liked having a name that was personal, not just a title. Their bond grew stronger each day. Ash became protective in ways that reminded of her parents. The dragon would not let her take unnecessary risks. When wanted to explore a dangerous area, Ash insisted on coming along. When she worked too long without eating, Ash would gently push food toward her. Found herself talking to Ash about everything. Her memories of the colony, her fears about the future, her dreams of what might come next. Ash listened and shared its own ancient memories. The dragon had seen civilizations rise and fall. It had watched stars die and new ones born, yet Ash found short human life fascinating and precious. 2 weeks after it first entered the canyon, Ash suddenly became alert. The dragon moved to the canyon entrance, scales bristling. Through their connection, felt alarm. She grabbed the tablet and ran to Ash's side. "What is it? What's wrong?" Ash showed her images of ships entering the planet's atmosphere, scanners picking up energy signatures. They were returning just as Ash had predicted. 3 ships this time, larger than before. They would be here within hours. Felt fear clutch her chest. "What do we do? Can you fight 3 ships?" Ash sent uncertainty. 1 ship, maybe. 3 was too many, especially with the wound not fully healed. They could hide deeper in the canyons, but they would search until they found the beacon. Looked at the tablet, thinking hard. Then she had an idea. What if we activate the beacon, send the signal out, someone might come help us? Ash showed her the risks. Activating the beacon would definitely bring ships, but there was no guarantee they would arrive in time. They might destroy the beacon before help could come. Or worse, the wrong kind of ships might answer the call. Thought about her options. They could hide and hope they gave up, but that seemed unlikely. They could try to fight and probably die, or they could take a chance on the beacon, hoping someone good would answer. She remembered her father's words. When all choices are risky, pick the one that gives you the most options. Hiding gave them nothing. Fighting gave them death. The beacon gave them a chance. "We activate it," said firmly. "We send the signal and we hold out as long as we can. Maybe help will come, maybe it won't, but at least we're doing something." Ash studied her with those golden eyes. The dragon sent images of pride and determination. Had courage that reminded Ash of the ancient warriors the dragon had known long ago. If they were going to make a stand, they would do it properly. They returned to the beacon chamber. Hands shook as she worked on the control panel, following the sequence Ash showed her. The beacon began to glow brighter. Energy filled the air, making his hair stand on end. The cylindrical structure pulsed with light growing brighter with each pulse. Then, with a sound like a bell ringing across dimensions, the beacon activated. The signal burst outward, invisible but powerful, racing across space at speeds faster than light. The ships landed near the colony ruins just after dawn. Watched them through a gap in the canyon wall, her father's tablet recording everything. 3 vessels, each one sleek and predatory looking. They were gunmetal gray with red markings along their hulls. Landing ramps extended, and soldiers began pouring out. They were terrifying to look at. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. Scales covered their bodies in mottled green and brown patterns. Their heads were reptilian with sharp teeth and cold, calculating eyes. Each one carried weapons that hummed with energy. Through the tablet's scanner, counted 40 soldiers from the 3 ships. They moved in organized groups, searching the ruins with military precision. One stood apart from the others, taller and with darker scales. This one wore armor decorated with symbols of rank. Ash sent an image. That was Commander, the leader of this hunting pack, had been here before during the first attack. The commander was ruthless and intelligent, a dangerous combination. Pulled back from her observation point, what's the plan? Ash showed her the canyon layout through their mental connection. They would search the wasteland first, then move to the canyons. And Ash had maybe 2 hours before the soldiers reached them. They needed to slow the down, make them cautious. Remembered the tactical lessons from the colony's defense drills. Her father had insisted all colonists learn basic security procedures. Never fight fair when you are outnumbered. Use the terrain. Make the enemy afraid of every step they take. She gathered supplies and started setting traps. The canyon had plenty of loose rocks that could be triggered to fall, rigged simple tripwires using salvaged cable. She placed broken equipment in pathways, making them think there might be explosives. Most of the traps were harmless, designed to create noise and confusion rather than casualties. Ash watched her work and sent approval. The dragon understood guerrilla tactics. Making the enemy nervous was often better than direct confrontation. They reached the canyon entrance an hour later, watched from a hidden position as 5 soldiers entered cautiously. They carried scanning devices and moved slowly, checking for threats. One of them stepped on first tripwire. Rocks tumbled down from above, crashing into the passage. They scattered, shouting in their harsh language. No one was hurt, but now they knew the canyon was defended. They called for reinforcements. 10 more soldiers entered, weapons ready. They advanced in a tight formation, covering each other. Let them get halfway through the entrance passage before triggering her second trap. More rocks fell, along with a piece of old equipment that made a loud bang when it hit the ground. They stopped and regrouped, could hear shouting orders from outside the canyon. The commander was angry but also wary. Good. Cautious enemies moved slowly. But caution only lasted so long. They adapted quickly, sending forward scouts while the main group provided cover. They began finding and disarming traps. They were getting closer to the deeper chambers. Retreated to the beacon room where Ash waited. The dragon had positioned itself between the entrance and the beacon, ready to make a stand. Through their connection, Ash sent calm reassurance. When they came, they would face dragon fire. The first soldiers entered the beacon chamber expecting a frightened human child. Instead, they found 30 meters of angry dragon. Ash roared, a sound that shook the entire canyon system. The soldiers froze in terror. Then Ash attacked. Fire erupted from the dragon's mouth, a stream of white-hot flame that turned the lead soldiers to ash in seconds. The heat was so intense that felt it from her protected position behind Ash. The remaining tried to retreat, but Ash moved with surprising speed, claws tearing through armor like paper. Watched in awe and fear. This was Ash's true power, the reason the dragon had been chosen as a guardian. The soldiers died quickly, their weapons useless against scales that had survived for centuries. But the battle was far from over. Heard the sounds of combat and made a decision. If soldiers could not defeat the dragon, the commander would use heavier weapons. His tablet picked up new energy signatures. They were bringing in combat mechs and artillery. Ash, they're bringing bigger guns, warned. The dragon sent grim acknowledgement. Ash could fight soldiers, but mechs were different. They were machines, immune to fear and designed to kill large threats. This fight was about to get much harder. The first mech entered the canyon. It stood 12 feet tall on 2 hydraulic legs. Its arms ended in weapons that glowed with charged energy. The mech's sensors locked onto Ash and opened fire. Energy bolts struck Ash's scales, each one hitting with explosive force. The dragon roared in pain and fury. Some of the bolts penetrated where the old wound had not fully healed. Dark blood splashed across the stone floor. Ash breathed fire at the mech, but machines did not burn easily. The mech advanced, weapons firing continuously. 2 more mechs entered behind it, forming a wall of metal and firepower. Made a decision. She could not let Ash fight alone. She grabbed a piece of broken equipment and threw it at the nearest mech. The impact did no damage, but it got the machine's attention. The mech's sensors turned toward her. "Hey, ugly, I'm the one you want," shouted. The mech redirected its weapons. Ash used that moment to lunge forward, claws ripping into the machine's leg joints. The mech toppled sideways, sparking and failing, but the other two mechs focused on Ash, their combined fire forcing the dragon back. The battle became desperate. Ash fought with everything the dragon had, but more mechs kept coming. The canyon walls took damage from missed shots, cracks spreading through the ancient stone. The beacon chamber began to shake. Realized they did not care about preserving the beacon anymore. Had decided to destroy everything rather than let Ash keep guarding it. If they could not claim the beacon, they would ensure no one else could either. "Ash the beacon," shouted. "We need to keep it transmitting." The dragon understood. Ash positioned itself directly in front of the beacon, taking hit after hit to protect the device. The dragon's scales were cracking under the assault. Blood poured from multiple wounds, but Ash refused to move. Ran to the control panel, trying to boost the beacon's signal. If they were going to die here, they would make sure the signal reached as far as possible. Her hands flew across the alien controls, following the instructions Ash had taught her. The beacon pulsed brighter. The signal grew stronger, cutting through space like a knife. Ships across multiple star systems would be detecting it now. Someone had to answer, someone had to come. A mech's weapon swiveled toward. She saw the energy building, knew she had no time to dodge. Then Ash's tail swept across the chamber, smashing the mech away. The shot went wild, blowing a hole in the canyon wall. Through the new opening could see the wasteland beyond, and in the sky above she saw something that made her heart leap. Lights, ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The beacon had been answered. But were they friends or more enemies? There was no way to know yet. Saw the ships too. The commander shouted new orders, the mechs from the beacon chamber regrouping. The soldiers ran back to their ships. They had to prepare for whoever was arriving. Ash collapsed, too wounded to chase them. Ran to the dragon's side, pressing her hands against the worst injuries. Blood soaked her clothes. Ash's breathing was labored and weak. "Stay with me," begged. "Please, Ash, help is coming, just hold on." The dragon's golden eyes focused on her. Through their connection, felt exhaustion and pain, but also satisfaction. They had done it. The beacon's call had been answered. Whatever happened next, they had succeeded in their mission. Held onto Ash and watched through the broken wall as more ships appeared in the sky. Some were human designs. She recognized the markings. Others were completely alien. They formed a loose formation above the planet, all of them detecting the beacon's signal. Then the largest ship sent a transmission. Tablet picked it up and translated to English. "This is Captain Helen Brooks of the Human Alliance Fleet Ship Valiant. We have received your distress signal. Identify yourselves and state your situation." Grabbed the tablet with shaking hands. This was it. This was their chance. She activated the transmission function and spoke, her voice stronger than she felt. "This is Survivor of Colony Base 7. We are under attack by forces. The Human Alliance fleet filled the sky like a wall of metal and purpose. Counted 12 ships in formation, their weapons trained on the 3 vessels still grounded near the colony ruins. The largest ship, the Valiant, hung directly above the canyon like a guardian angel. More ships arrived as watched. These were different designs, sleeker and marked with symbols she did not recognize. Ash stirred weakly and sent an image. Those were ships from species allied with the dragon kind, civilizations that still remembered the ancient alliances. The beacon had called everyone. Kept pressure on Ash's wounds while watching the standoff develop. The ships powered up their weapons but did not fire. They were surrounded and outnumbered 5-1. Even had to see this was over. Captain Brooks transmitted again. "Commander, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You are charged with the destruction of a human colony and attempted theft of protected ancient technology." There was a long silence. Then responded this voice harsh and angry through the translation. "We claim salvage rights. This planet was abandoned. The technology here belongs to whoever finds it." Grabbed her tablet and activated the transmission. "That's a lie. You attacked our colony. You killed everyone. I was there. I survived." Another voice joined the transmission, calm and authoritative. "This is Ambassador of the Council. The technology you seek is protected under the Ancient Preservation Treaty, signed by 43 species, including the Confederation. You have violated galactic law, Commander." More voices joined, representatives from different species, all confirming the same thing. They had broken laws that most civilizations held sacred. Ancient sites were protected. Colonies were protected, had violated both. The commander tried one more time. We were defending ourselves against the dragon. It attacked our survey team without provocation. Ash made a sound that was definitely disagreement, translated through the tablet. Sentinel, the guardian of this beacon, has been here for centuries. You attacked first, trying to force access to the beacon. Sentinel was defending what it was sworn to protect. Captain Brooks cut through the argument. Commander, I am done negotiating. Power down your weapons in the next 60 seconds, or we will disable your ships by force. This is your final warning. Watch the ships through the broken canyon wall. The energy signatures from their weapons began dropping, was surrendering. The commander had no choice. We are powering down, transmitted. But this is not over. The Confederation will protest this action. You do that, Captain Brooks replied. In the meantime, you will be escorted out of this system and your actions will be reported to the Galactic Council. Move your ships to the coordinates I am sending. Any deviation and we fire. The ships lifted off slowly, surrounded by Alliance vessels. They left the planet's atmosphere under heavy guard, heading for whatever justice awaited them. Watched them go and felt a weight lift from her chest. They were safe. It was really over. Medical shuttles began landing near the canyon. Teams in protective suits rushed towards position. She tried to explain about Ash, but the medics saw the massive dragon and stopped in shock. One of them recovered first. Is this the Guardian from the beacon transmission? This is Ash, said firmly. And Ash needs medical help. Can you help a dragon? The medics looked at each other uncertainly. Then one of them, a woman with kind eyes, knelt beside. We'll do our best. We have specialists on the Valiant. Let us examine your friend. Over the next hours, watched as teams worked to stabilize Ash. The dragon's physiology was different from anything the human doctors had seen, but they were professionals. They cleaned wounds, administered broad-spectrum antibiotics, and set up equipment to monitor Ash's vital signs. Captain Brooks herself came to the canyon. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a no-nonsense expression. She looked at Ash with wonder, then turned too. You activated an ancient beacon, fought off soldiers, and befriended a dragon, Brooks said. That's impressive for anyone, let alone an 11-year-old. Shrugged, suddenly shy. I didn't want to die alone. Ash gave me a reason to keep fighting. Brooks smiled. You gave Ash a reason too. The Guardian was wounded and alone. You helped each other. That's what good allies do. She sat down on a rock next to. We found other survivors from the attacks. They had been taken prisoner, held on one of the ships. 63 people total from different colonies. His heart jumped. My parents alive? Brooks consulted a tablet. Peter and, yes, they're alive. They were being held because of their research. The wanted information about ancient sites in this sector. Your parents refused to cooperate. Started crying, unable to hold it back anymore. Her parents were alive. After weeks of grief and loneliness, they were alive. Brooks put a hand on his shoulder. They're being treated on the Valiant. They'll be ready to see you soon. They'll be so proud of what you've accomplished. Over the next days, learned the full story. Her parents had been researching ancient civilizations when they attacked. The beacon and Ash protected was part of a network built thousands of years ago. That network had connected humans and dragon kind in an alliance that shaped the early galaxy. The dragons were nearly extinct now, scattered across distant worlds. But the beacons remained, guarded by the few dragons left. Ash was one of the last guardians, faithful to a duty that spanned. When finally reunited with her parents, they held her for a long time. Her father kept saying he was sorry, that he should have been there. Her mother cried and laughed and examined for injuries all at the same time. They were thinner than remembered, marked by their captivity, but alive and whole. Told them everything. The weeks alone, finding Ash. The battle with her parents listened with pride and sorrow, grateful she had survived but sad about the price she had paid. Then Captain Brooks presented with a choice. The Alliance would establish a permanent research station here, studying the beacon and protecting it properly. Could join her parents on a new colony, safe and protected. Or she could stay here, becoming an official liaison between humans and dragon kind. Looked at Ash, recovering slowly in the main cavern. Other dragons had begun arriving, answering the beacon's call. There were 5 now, ancient and powerful, reunited after centuries of isolation. They spoke of rebuilding their alliance with humanity, of sharing knowledge and protection. "I want to stay," said. "Ash protected me when no one else could. These dragons need someone who understands both them and humans. I can do that." Her parents exchanged glances, then her father nodded. "We'll stay too. This research station will need, we can work together." 6 months later, the scorched barrens looked completely different. The research station spread across the canyon area, a mix of human buildings and natural dragon habitats. Scientists from multiple species worked alongside each other, studying the beacon and the ancient civilization that built it. Walked through the facility wearing a junior researcher badge. At 12 years old, she was the youngest official in the Alliance. She had learned 3 alien languages and could communicate with dragons better than anyone else. Ash's wound had healed, leaving only faint scars under the black scales. The dragon spent time with the other guardians, teaching younger dragons about the ancient duties. But each evening, Ash returned to the canyon where Still kept her small chamber. They would sit together as the sun set, watching the wasteland transform. The toxic pools were being cleaned. Vegetation was being introduced. In a few years, this planet might actually support complex life. Leaned against Ash's warm side, feeling the dragon's contentment through their connection. She thought about the terrified, lonely girl who had walked into these canyons weeks ago. That girl had been desperate and hopeless. Now had family, she had purpose. She had friends from a dozen species, and she had Ash, her protector and companion, the dragon who had given her a reason to survive. "You know what I realized?" said out loud. "The wasteland didn't almost kill me, it saved me. If the colony hadn't been attacked, if I hadn't been forced into the barrens, I never would have found you." Ash sent warm agreement through their connection. Sometimes the worst things led to the best outcomes. Sometimes being left alone meant finding the family you were meant to have. A ship descended from orbit, bringing more researchers and supplies. Smother waved from the landing pad, calling her to dinner. Waved back, then looked up at Ash. "Come on, Mom's making her famous pasta. She says there's enough for a dragon, too." Ash made a sound that might have been laughter. The dragon followed toward the research station, massive wings folded peacefully. Around them, the wasteland bloomed with new life, and the beacon pulsed steadily, calling out to the galaxy. One human girl and her dragon had changed everything. They had renewed an ancient alliance, stopped a threat, and proven that courage could come from the most unexpected places. The wasteland had tested them both. And they had won. "Our colony and are trying to capture ancient technology. Please help us." There was a pause, then Captain Brooks responded, her voice firm and commanding. "Hold your position, we are coming to get you. The fleet is surrounded. This ends now." Looked at Ash and smiled through her tears. They had made it. Against impossible odds, a human girl and her dragon had called the galaxy for help. And the galaxy had answered. Felt it through her connection with Ash. The beacon was calling out to the galaxy, announcing its presence, asking for help or bringing doom. They would find out which soon enough. Ash moved to the chamber entrance and prepared to defend. Checked her supplies and the few weapons she had managed to salvage. They had just declared their position to anyone listening. Now they had to survive long enough to see who answered. They would find in her dragon, and that changed everything. Her adventure had truly begun.